What's up everybody, my name is Elliott, but you can call me the Motory Notary. And as a notary public, I am bound by the state of Kansas to always tell the truth. And the truth for me is, I love getting hand-me-down cars from other YouTubers, especially ex-CarTrek cars. I was able to purchase this Maserati from Tavares right after they finished filming the second season of CarTrek, and it quickly became my favorite car I've ever had. So when Tyler Hoover gave me a call and asked me if I wanted to take a second crack at another CarTrek car, I instantly booked the first flight I could to Atlanta to go see Ed Bolian and pick the new car up. Well guys, as you can tell by now, I've done it again. We're here at the iconic Ed Bolian garage of VinWiki because, well, I'm adding another CarTrek car to the stable, but this one's just a pinch different than the Maserati in about every way possible because it's a Mercedes diesel wagon. Ed, what have I gotten myself into here?
It sounds like quite an adventure. It's a real peach that Tyler brought to CarTrek 5. We were buying duplicates of our first cars, and this was his, I take it. Not quite a wagon in his form, but that one doesn't work. Look at that.
Oh.
Look at that.
Man.
The wood is in remarkably good shape.
Yes, it does have that going for it. Coolant bottle on the ground. I like that.
Don't worry about that.
Good sign.
About that coolant bottle.
Also, just kind of all sorts of CarTrek smatterings.
Yes,
I like that.
That's the idea. We like to be branded, but I mean, suitable for grandpa anywhere or a trip to Coachella, all the things you use a Mercedes wagon for these days.
I can hardly believe what I'm looking at, I guess.
Well, we did notice this. It has been drilled out likely for some flags, which you love to see from an aging German car.
Gotta love flags on a Mercedes. That's never bad.
Never. Honestly, we drove it a few hundred miles and it did quite well. So I feel like there's a reasonably good chance you're going to make it home.
Good, because I think I've got a 16-hour drive ahead of me. I'm going to pick up my dad at the airport right now, who has, for some reason, volunteered to fly out here just for the drive back in this gem. And we're going to see how that goes. So, Ed, thank you for storing this beautiful vehicle for me.
It's really added to the vista from the house.
I'm sure.
What are you going to do with it?
We'll see. I gotta get it back to Wichita first.
Yes, that is the first hurdle. So many possibilities, really. Limitless.
Yes, it's a blank canvas, essentially. I mean, what a vehicle. Well, thanks, Ed. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Drive safe.
Thanks, bud. All right, got my dad from the airport. Did not have time to recharge the air conditioner. So we've just been in Atlanta traffic or at least I have been for 2 hours now. New AC, not a lot of movement, and I'm feeling it at least. I think he's doing it, but we are on the road now. Hopefully we make it to Nashville tonight. That's the first stop. But so far the car's been great. It's actually loving the traffic. Part of the benefits of diesels, they run pretty cool. Hopefully maybe in another hour we'll be out of town.
That'd be great.
All right. Well, we're at our first stop. A little disappointing. There is a Buc-ee's in the background that we tried to stop at first, but they're like 1 week from opening. Anyway, stopped at Love's, put about 8 gallons worth of gas in the old Mercedes diesel here. And as you can see, I've got the hood in the service position because we're checking the oil. And more importantly, we finally have an opportunity to recharge the air conditioner. And while we're at it, I'm gonna tape this little piece of trim that as I'm going down the highway just keeps flippity flapping at me. So I'm gonna tape that up. And it has been a long day, but we've made it. We are at the Hampton Inn in Nashville, and it is time to rest for both me, my dad, and the Mercedes. So we'll pick this up tomorrow morning. All right, out on the highway now. My dad's driving for this leg. AC is blowing pretty cold. We've only got 10 hours left of driving, so let's just do it. Well, we are at our final stop, hopefully, in Columbia, Missouri. So far on this trip, I believe we have spent about $150 just on trying to keep this thing filled, but it leaks out within about an hour. This has been exhausting, but you gotta hand it to the car. What a vehicle. It has made it this long at modern day speeds, really hiccup free, other than it leaking out refrigerant as fast as we can put it in there, but it's not really a reliability issue, it's more of a comfort issue. So anyway, props to the car, and well, I guess we'll see you when we get back. Time to drive into the sunset. And look, it's back. The Tan family truckster made it all the way back to Wichita from Atlanta, and now I can show you what $3,000 worth of ex-Cartrek German steel gets you. Let me take you on a tour in handheld mode here. I think it's worth mentioning, now that the Mercedes is back in Wichita, I'm the only one other than the Cartrek trio themselves that owns not one, but two former Cartrek cars. That means the Mercedes is joining the Maserati here in the warehouse, although the Maserati is considerably more broken than the Mercedes is, even after 1,000 miles. But we're not talking about the Maserati right now. We're talking about the 1983 Mercedes 300 TD that I just bought from Tyler Hoover. So let's see what I got. On the outside here, there's not a lot to say that Ed didn't cover on Cartrek 5. It is a beige, Mercedes calls it cream, 1980s German station wagon. This is what you think of when you think of 1980s German station wagons. This is the car. It's got 3 of its mud flaps, which is great. It is missing the little circle around the Mercedes emblem here, but I think that's a nice, unique touch. We do have a pinch of rust forming here. Hopefully that's not too bad to fix, but it's okay. It adds to the patina. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, how bad was the damage when Tyler let this thing run into the guardrail at Atlanta Speedway?
Come on. You're really on that guardrail, aren't you?
Well, surprisingly, not that bad. Look at this thing. This is where it hit, and it's like a minor scuff. I don't even know if, look, some of that is rubbing right off. That's pretty impressive. I believe it also touched right here, but again, not that bad. The surprising part for, I think, all of us was that when this door was open and it ran into the guardrail, it didn't bend backwards, and the only damage on it is like right down here. That is just astonishing. They really don't build them like they used to anymore. It's amazing that you could run into a guardrail with something and have it show no damage. This thing is built like a freaking Panzer. Now, let's take a quick look under the hood of this 5-cylinder diesel beast. This is a bit of a process here. Pull this big metal handle and nothing really happens. And then you gotta yank it a little bit until it sticks its little tongue out. And then there's a struggle. Hang on, I'm gonna have to set the camera down for this. All right. Okay, now it's open. No. All right. But now I have to push it into its service mode because there's no springs. Okay. Now that it's open, you can see all 120 horsepower and 185 pound-feet of torque of diesel glory. This thing is just coated in oil, probably because it runs on oil and it spurts oil everywhere a little bit at a time. It's really old school. The turbo is right down there. It's not intercooled at all. It just goes whoop, straight in. It's pretty amazing stuff. And the part that you're all also wondering about is Tyler's inappropriate fix, which is down there. The condom has kind of burned off a little bit, but you can still see it is zip tied in place right like it was from the show. That's about all there is to see under here. It just works. This car got like 28 miles to the gallon on the drive back, which is absolutely mind-boggling. But the real story for a Cartrek car isn't necessarily the outside. It's the stuff that's left over on the inside. Let's take a look. All right, climbing into the interior now of the 83 300 TD. First thing you notice is this seat is pretty darn springy, and it presumably has a lot of Tyler Hoover sweat on it. I know it has a lot of my sweat on it from the last 1,000 miles. The other thing is this wheel is gigantic. It doesn't look that big when you're looking at it, but when you're sitting here, you feel like you're a boat captain and your arms are kind of akimbo. It's a weird experience. Other notable things though are because this was a luxury car from the 1980s, there wasn't a lot of technology to flood the cabin with. So what they did instead was fill it with nice materials, and that really shows all these years later. There's a ton of real wood everywhere, and it's held up fantastically. It feels great because it's real wood, not plastic or vinyl. Other notable features include an automatic climate control, which would be insane for the 1980s. Air conditioning was a luxury in the early 1980s, and the fact that this car can modulate its temperature would have been super cutting edge. In addition to those nice features, it has a radio with an adjustable antenna so you can increase or decrease your reception at your whim. Speaking of modulating temperature, I did notice that this car came equipped with a spare bottle of Mercedes branded coolant, which I'm sure came in handy a lot during the filming of Car Trek 5. The main thing that I'm impressed with in here though is the odometer reading. This thing is showing 283,000 miles, which is an insane amount. It's the highest mileage car I've ever driven. But apparently people drive these things 400,000, 500,000, even 1,000,000 miles in all sorts of climates. So I think this particular Mercedes is just getting started. Let's hop in the back and the hatch and see what other kind of Car Trek treasures we can find in this Mercedes. Climbing in the back here, I can see, well, right away, I've got my missing hood springs from up front, both of them. And the more immediate thing, I've got the remnants of Tyler's non-family friendly fix for this car. Good to, I guess, always have a few of these around for fixing stuff. Even the zip ties that he used, that's nice. And I've got like a whole deck of cards worth of Car Trek stickers. So I can stick these on like an Xbox, a tool chest, refrigerator, whatever I want. I guess that's the perks of buying an Car Trek car. Let's see what's in the hatch. Along the backside of the long roof rolling Band-Aid on wheels, the hatch is where all of the action is. And you can see it says turbo diesel on the outside, which is what makes this special. Because believe it or not, they made a naturally aspirated version of this car. First and foremost though, it's amazing that this hatch can actually hold itself up after all of these years, probably because it uses springs and not the gas shocks that fail on modern cars. Look at all the stuff that's back here. First thing I noticed was this DuPont registry bag, and inside of it is what appears to be Tyler and Freddy's Amelia Island judging booklets. I wonder if they want these back. But moving on, I noticed there was this hose, which I later found out was the heater core valve hose. It's gonna have been bypassed, so apparently I don't have heat until I fix this. But things get cooler from there. I noticed my rear view mirror was broken, but I found the glass back here, which is great. The little surround is still broken, but who cares? At least I have the glass. I've got a spare wiper arm mechanism, which is always a good thing to have. If you know my channel, my wagons usually don't have wipers, so this is a good thing. Back here, I've also got the Mercedes-Benz auto repair manual for this year and the original in German manual for this car from Mercedes. I mean, everything is in German. It's almost hilarious. But by far, the coolest thing to still have with this car is, amongst other things, the original window sticker that shows that this car was $34,293 in 1983. Roughly, that calculates out to about $94,000 in today's money. Can you imagine going to the Mercedes dealer and plopping down $94,000 for a beige station wagon with less than 150 horsepower? Whew, the 80s were a wild time. Behind all of this stuff is this car's final party trick. It has a third row, which kind of takes some construction here, but it has it. It has a rear-facing third row of seats. Look at that. You kind of have to like fiddle with it to get it in there, and I'm not sure about the safety regulations on it, but it's still cool to have a rear-facing third row. My daughter is gonna love giving that a whirl in the neighborhood. Let's button all this stuff up and let me take you out for a drive in the Mercedes wagon, because I didn't really get to give my driving impressions on the way back, but now I've got the time and we've got the place. So let's go drive this old wagon. So, what does a 1983 Mercedes 300 TD wagon feel like to drive on the road? Well, the overwhelming sensation is slow. Everything is slow. The steering input is slow. The car accelerates slowly. The brakes are okay, but they're not sports car brakes. Actually, they feel pretty good. I take that back. That's the strongest part on the car, the brakes. All right, pulling out into traffic here. Giving it all she's got. And there's 25. There's 30. And there's 40. That was almost dangerously slow. But one thing that's crazy is because you have to drive it that hard all the time, it still manages to get 25 to 28 miles to the gallon. This thing's insanely efficient, especially when you consider how old it is and how hard you have to drive it to make it go. At this speed though, you do notice how floaty it is. This is a lot of steering input for nothing to happen. Not to mention, like I said, this wheel is already gigantic. Let me make this tight turn here. See how we're doing. Coming in hot. And on it hard. I cannot believe that Tyler Hoover took this on a track, and with the other guys in the back. This car is just so not fast in every single aspect, it's almost hard to articulate. But it was never built for speed. It was built to be the finest luxury car, the most practical luxury car, and it was built to last forever. And so far, it's at least done the last one. Let's do another acceleration test here. Should be rolling coal now, boys. Yeah, we're doing it. We're accelerating. It is happening. Another thing of note of this specific car is that the tach works intermittently. So right now I'm in a period of not working, but when it does work, sometimes it just kind of dances around and flicks all over the range, which is pretty weird. But for a lot of the drive it was working. It just has chosen not to lately. You can't help but think while driving this of all of the things that happened to it during Car Trek though. Multiple collisions with Freddy's car, a collision with the wall, a condom fix. I mean, heck, Tyler Hoover himself kind of Chris-fixed this thing. A lot happened here. At least for him, the air conditioner was working. Me, not so lucky. The air conditioner is probably gonna be very high on the priority list of things to fix on this car. Oh, the tach started working again. Wow, see? It's the very definition of intermittent. Overall though, when you think about this car and what it's been through, just on Car Trek alone, the fact that this car is still this reliable and still this good to drive means that this thing is built like a brick crap house. And I can't wait to give it a home for the foreseeable future. I am so excited to have another Car Trek in the family. So there you have it, guys. That is my new to me 1983 Mercedes 300 TD, the second Car Trek to join my fleet. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but boy is it reliable, as I've learned myself. Now, the real question is, what am I gonna do with it? And this is what I need your guys' help for. The way I see it is I've got three options. One, leave it as is, kind of fix things as needed and just enjoy it. Two, restore it, because these have been going up in value like crazy lately if you've seen the auctions. Or three, this one's pretty wild, I'm thinking zebra stripes, a big jerry can on top, a little bit of a lift, some big lights on the front, and make this thing like an African safari build. That would be pretty cool. Now, let me know what you guys would do in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, I appreciate you watching this video. I do all sorts of stuff like this all the time. Be sure to check out my other videos. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram. I post a lot of behind the scenes content there and things that I'm not always able to share on YouTube. Be sure to like me on Facebook. Join my Facebook group. It's a great place to share memes, and I'm almost always in there interacting in the comments. And other than that, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe on this video. It greatly helps my YouTube performance. I will see you guys on the next video.